Well, hey there. It's your buddy Simeon here with you today. I wanted to talk to you about the question that I get asked quite a bit, which is, can you make money with remote viewing, with what we call resonant viewing, virtual viewing? And the answer is yes, you can, but maybe not in a direct way that you thought you could. And let me explain that. There have been lots of experiments and tests over the years about whether you can do short-term predictions into the future. And the evidence indicates, as far as I'm concerned, that yes, you can. We have a lot of experiments showing that you can get a sense of events, short-term events, maybe a day ahead of time, a week ahead of time. And these are so-called ARV experiments, associative remote viewing. And the way it works is typically you take a couple objects and you associate them with different outcomes in the future. For example, if you're trying to predict something like, the S&P 500, people have also done it with commodities markets, a lot of work with the silvers, future markets in the past when people were researching this. And you basically, two outcomes, market up, market down. You could associate, take an object and associate one object with market up. Maybe, let's say it's on Monday and you want to predict what the market's going to do by Friday. You have another object for market down, and they're two different looking objects, and you say to the viewer, you associate the objects with the different outcome. You say to the viewer, what object am I going to show you? Can you describe it on Friday? And here you are on Monday. And the point is, can the viewer describe something in the future? And the answer is yes, they can. If you take objects that are different from each other in color and size and shape and so forth, different use, different function, the viewer can tell you, I kind of see this color and this shape. That's what I think I'm going to be showing on Friday. Now, since you've already agreed ahead of time to associate the different objects with the outcome, you can get a sense of what the market's going to do, because you know that if the viewer saw this object, that means the market is going to do this, because that's the only reason you showed it to them. And if you showed them this object, the market is going to do that because that's what you were going to show them. So you make an agreement ahead of time. Now, these studies and tests generally show that you can sometimes get as high as an 80% hit rate, which means you can get it right 80% of the time. And we've done our own experiments where we actually got it right 10 out of 10 times, just with play money, without actually investing real money. But people who've done it over the long period of time have done better than 50%, which is what you would get if you were just guessing, in a binary outcome, up or down. The thing about it is, it seems that all these experiments, after a while, the results regress back to 50%. It could be because the viewers get bored with it. I mean, you're doing it every day or several times a week, week after week, and there's really no reward if you get it wrong. And it also seems that maybe our subconscious minds don't have the same priorities that we do. And so they're basically doing things like, like lots of things holding your body together and making your digestion work and keeping your respiration going and a million other things. And they're not really too concerned in the long run about the behavior of sort of market, which is out there, not directly related to it. So even though you think it's something that matters to you, like winning the lottery, your subconscious is not particularly concerned about it. So while people have done reasonably okay with this, maybe 60%, 70%, it seems after a while, because of a boredom factor that sets in, that it regresses back to 50%, which is what you get if you were just guessing, which isn't giving you any advantage at all. There are other studies that show, called presentience, that show that people actually have a sense of what they're going to be shown if they take different types of pictures with a lot of emotional value to them. That people do have a little bit sense of what is about to happen in the future. I think these presentient studies really show that we do have a little bit of sense, like a wave that's coming into the shore, of what's coming our direction. But there's another way to use remote viewing, resonant viewing, virtual viewing, which I think is much more effective in terms of creating money for you, which is to expand your own creative boundaries, basically to use viewing to develop your intuition and your creative skills so that you do a better job at whatever you're already doing, if you get my meaning here. In other words, you already have a certain job, profession, things that you do. You can do those things better if you know how to tap more deeply into your intuition, your natural creativity. and learn to be a better reader of the information that you're getting so you can make better quality decisions. By developing your own creative whole brain skills, you can do a better job at anything you're already doing in the first place. And whatever your job is, profession, whatever you like to do in life, if you're engaging more of your mind and more of your brain, we know that viewing activates the right brain, so it gets your right brain and left brain working together, and then by having them work together in a more holistic way, you're actually engaging more of your total intelligence and connect what I like to think of as your higher intelligence, you know, this larger quantum energy information matrix that we're all surrounded by. By actually engaging that process more fully, more completely, and fine-tuning it and making it work better for you, you're going to do a better job at what you're doing. And you may have heard about this book. I just got a copy. It's called Executive ESP, and it's from many decades ago when they were doing early research into whether successful executives had higher intuitive skills than those who were less successful. And what they found was that successful CEOs did indeed seem to have a higher intuitive skill level, higher ability to perceive extrasensory information, if that's what you'd like to call it. And now some of the examples they give in there are something that you may understand. You remember the good old days of cassette tape, right? Well, the people that invented cassette tape, the people at the Ampex company, originally they did work for the U.S. government, and when World War II ended, they didn't have much work to do. So the head of the company decided to go into the consumer tape market, and they actually weren't sure if this was a good idea, so they hired a consulting company who promptly told them there was no future for consumer tape products. Well, I think we found that that was wrong. You remember the good old days of cassette, 8-track tape, and then that led to floppy disks and computer media and hard disks and so forth. So the reason we have that type of media, magnetic recording media on tape at the consumer level, you know, years and years, I always enjoyed cassettes, you know, was that the head of the company decided not to listen to his consulting company because he just had a gut feeling that this was a good thing to do. And another example that we're all familiar with is Sony Walkman. One of the co-founders of Sony, Akio Morita, when he originally had this idea to develop the Walkman, a lot of the people in the company thought it wasn't going to be a successful product. And the way Morita used to make his decisions was intuitively. He would basically, every decision he needed to make, he would sort of, in his mind, swallow the product or the decision and see how it digested. And if it digested well, you know, he would go ahead with it, and regardless of what other people thought in the company around him. And we all know how successful the Sony Walkman was. And even more recently, we've had the Apple iPad, which is by any standards a very successful product. At the time of this recording, there's still, you know, waiting lists to get one of them. And yet we know other people in Apple didn't think it was going to be a successful product, and Steve Jobs pushed it ahead anyway, just like he did the iPod and a lot of other products that people at the time weren't really sure were going to work. So the moral of the story is, if you develop your intuitive skills and your creative skills, you're going to get a sense of what's going to be successful for you, regardless of what the other people around you say. And this is a very powerful thing, because if you get a hunch or an intuition, an advanced perception of something, and you get the feeling that it's accurate, and you've probably had these advanced perceptions, intuitions, and hunches about things in the past, right, that have turned out to be accurate. If you use that in your job or your profession or your whatever you do, and you're able to do it better and get these kind of little advanced perceptions ahead of time and get a sense that something's going to be successful regardless of what the people around you say, and you go ahead with it, it's going to make you more successful and in turn make you more money. So the real lesson here is, yes, remote viewing can help you make more money by helping you develop the natural intuitive skills that you already possess but may not know you have. In other words, you have much greater creative and intuitive abilities than you probably think you have. And by working with remote viewing or anything else that engages your whole brain, you see, the whole thing about remote viewing is it works really well for us because it makes us use our whole brain, our whole mind, and connect to our higher intelligence, and that's the real point. You're connecting to something bigger than yourself when you do remote viewing. And so by engaging your right brain and all the creative holistic skills that are engendered in your right brain and use them in a coordinated way with your rest of your brain, your left brain, you're using all your brain, and then you're going to do a better job than if you're just using the left brain. And that's why doing something, practice something like remote viewing or any other creativity based skills that are engaging your full mind, your whole mind, it's going to help you do a better job at everything else you're doing. You're going to make better quality decisions, and you're going to be more successful at everything else you do. And so that's the answer to the question. Yes, it can help you make more money by helping you develop your full brain potential. And that's it. So thanks again. It's a great question. Feel free to send me other questions that you may have. I've enjoyed talking to you today, and we'll talk to you soon. Take care.